UFC 306 Noche at the Sphere is an utter and complete disaster and failure, and Dana White is absolutely livid about it. And I picked up on this. It was kind of starting to build maybe a month or two ago, and I pointed this out in a video looking at a clip. But then recently at a post-fight presser, the one about John Jones, I feel like there were some comments that Dana White made that flew under the radar. We're going to take a look at them in this video. But I believe the collapse of UFC Noche ticket prices is really starting to piss Dana White off. And we're going to take a look at a couple different clips. And also I remembered about a month ago, somebody called out Dana White for the extreme ticket prices, which is also a problem in the sport as a whole. So we're going to take a look at that clip as well in this video. But I want to start off with this, because I know there's going to be some people down in the comments. Joey, you're saying UFC Noche at the Sphere, Riyadh season, UFC 306, you're saying it's a complete and utter disaster? You're saying it's a complete and utter failure? You're saying Dana White is livid about it? Well, wait a second. A couple days ago, you were hyping up the card. I absolutely love the UFC Noche card. I can't wait for the Sphere card. I can't wait for Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili, and I think it's an incredible card. But that doesn't change the fact of reality of what's going on with the overall gate. And Dana White actually lashed out on someone on Twitter today that we're going to take a look at in this video as well. But that's what's going on. That's detached from the fact that I think this is a great card. And a lot of people are mad that I'm saying it's a great card because they're disappointed, which I knew they would be, because they weren't truly listening to what Dana White was saying when he's saying this is going to be a once-in-a-lifetime event. He was hyping up the overall experience. He wasn't actually hyping up the card. So people were expecting this UFC 300 or better-esque card, and in reality, it was never going to be that. And I already knew that, so it exceeded my expectations. So that's why I'm kind of like, how are people mad about this card? This is a great card. But I understand Dana White kind of hyped them up only to kind of let them down, where I had lower expectations, and they exceeded my expectations. So I just want to break that down before we get into any of this, because people are going to be like, Joey, this is completely, contradictory to what you were saying the other day. But let's jump right into it, because we have to talk about ticket prices. This is from July 29th, 2024, obviously. So about a month ago. UFC 306 layout for the Sphere revealed. Cheapest tickets selling for $3,000. That is craziness. And this is a problem with the UFC in general that's been bothering me for a while. We're going to talk about that later in the video. But if you look at it, Dana White has promised a show unlike anything else. They kind of mistyped it here, I think. Unlike any else he's promoted. I guess that sounds right. When UFC 306 lands at the Sphere in Las Vegas, September 14th. Okay? With tickets currently running between $3,000 and $12,000, but the first look at how the arena is set up for this historic event, the Sphere boasts blah, 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 blah. Okay, here's the event. So I don't know where they got this screenshot from, because even now, there's a lot more tickets than are shown on this screenshot, okay? So I don't know about this screenshot, but either way, the point is, MMA Fighting reporting cheapest tickets for $3,000. Okay, I did not independently confirm that because I tried to go back and pull it up with the Wayback Machine. You can't pull it up on Ticketmaster. But another thing I want to take a look at is this is like a Twitter that's tracking ticket prices for not only wrestling but also UFC. And this is a report or an update from August 12th. Okay, August 12th, this was reported. And what I want you to see, available tickets, 2,526. Tickets distributed, 12,884. Okay, and then it says resale, 1,614. Okay, so I want you to remember those numbers. August 12th. Okay, we basically have, available tickets, 2,526. You go here, August 30th, so just yesterday. Okay, so what? We're talking 3 weeks later, 2 weeks before the event. And we have 1,876 tickets left. And we actually have an increase in resale tickets, 1,682, right? Yeah. So we have a little increase in resale, and then we only have a slight decrease from available tickets, about 700 tickets, it appears. A little less than 700 tickets. Available tickets. Dana's not happy about this. But that's not the only thing he's not happy about, because if you look at the ticket prices, look at the ticket prices now. You can get a ticket for $757. Okay. Now that's 110 over here. That's going to be absolute garbage. I mean, you can't even, like it says, you can even see here, full view of Octagon, very limited view of the Sphere. So what's the point of even going at that point? I don't even know why they would build seats over here if it's not going to get the full experience, but you know how arenas are. But you look at some of these ticket prices now. Okay, you got a $1,000 ticket, standard admission, $1,000 ticket. You can go down, blah, 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 1,600, 1,700. This is a far cry from the original prices of $3,000. And what's even crazier is if you zoom in here, all the blue tickets are original tickets. So all the red ones are the resale tickets. Look how many's left. That's crazy. I'm going to try to zoom out as much as I can before it goes back to the regular screen, but this is actually like an interactive map and it's kind of shitty. But look at this. Look how many seats there are here. There's so many seats. And if you go up here, look, $3,000 for those seats. Let's see what these are up here. This is official platinum, whatever the hell that means. And this isn't even including fees. Ticketmaster would be charging fees out the ass. So you got $4,600. It's probably going to end up being, I would say, $5,500 by the time you pay for fees. So look at this. I mean, this is insanity. All these seats are left. All these resale tickets are left. And they're going down in prices. The original lowest seat was $3,000. Dana White is not happy about this at all because they have to make that large gate to keep that profit margin that they're used to. They're spending all this money for the Sphere. And now not only are they not selling tickets because the tickets are so highly priced, they're now having to drop the prices and sell tickets. And they're not going to make the gate that they would have wanted to make, especially when they're putting out so much money, which Dana White gave an update on that the other day, which we're going to take a look at in a second. Now, the first clip I want to take a look at is Dana White at the UFC 303 presser. This was the beginning of, I sensed something kind of lingering going on behind the scenes. I used this in a previous video. It was easy for me to dig up. But this is him talking about the board of directors for the UFC wanted to know, well, where's all this money going that you're spending? Listen to this.
We're less than 3 months out from Noche UFC, and I know you guys had a lot on your plate this week, but is there a timeline when we can expect an announcement for the main event and all that stuff for that?
Yeah, so today was a big day because our board of directors and a bunch of other people flew out today and wanted to see where the fuck all this money was going. So I walked everybody through the...
So they wanted to know where all the money was going because Dana White is spending a ridiculous amount of money to put on this event. I couldn't find any real clear-cut information on how much a typical event costs the UFC to put on, but it's not the amount they spend on the Sphere. That's why Dana White's been kind of pissy about the whole Merab cut thing, because if Merab pulls out and they got to pay O'Malley to take a short notice opponent, or they got to pay a short notice opponent more, they also got to revamp the, kind of graphics for the Sphere, it would be a massive headache. That's why Dana White's pissed about the Merab cut and then Merab posting it on social media and then Merab cutting the stitches out with the scissors. But that's besides the point because there's more to that. We're not even going to look at those clips because Dana White the other day, and this got a bit overlooked, this was at the Dana White's Contender Series post-fight presser where the whole John Jones, Kevin Iole back and forth happened, which was beautiful to watch. But a lot of people kind of skipped over some of these other comments that Dana White made, and we're going to take a look at them. You have another event going on at the T-Mobile Arena the same night, September 14th. Canelo Alvarez is boxing. I don't even know who. I don't pay attention to boxing. That's how little I pay attention to boxing. But you can sense Dana White is pissed about that for a multitude of reasons, and I want to take a look at these clips.
And going up against Canelo, it's kind of insane that you guys are just going this hard in the paint against the number one guy who's probably the only pay-per-view star they have right now.
Well, I didn't determine to go up against them. We were already going. That was our date. We were going on that date, and then they announced they were going. Listen, I told you last week, but MGM's guaranteeing the gate for that fight. So
sounds salty about that. And he actually had a Twitter outburst today that we're going to take a look at in this video as well about that.
Yeah, they're guaranteeing the gate. So, yeah, why would they not go on that date if MGM's going to put up all the money?
So MGM's guaranteeing the gate. The gate, if you don't know, is the ticket sales, all the memorabilia sales and food sales and stuff like that. Dana White announced after every event, our gate, we're breaking records for the gate. We're still paying 12 and 12, but we're breaking all these records. He seems a little bit annoyed that Canelo and all them guys are getting a guaranteed gate from MGM, allegedly. Next clip we're going to take a look at is him kind of crying about having his date stolen. And the reason this is important is because the only reason they're at the Sphere is because T-Mobile gave away their date, according to Dana, gave away their date. And he seems awfully bitter about this. Now, this could just be Dana being petty, but I think there's more to this, and I'm going to break that down in a second.
Got such an investment in Canelo and Mexican Independence Day, and you guys have got the deal with T-Mobile Arena. Does it?
We went there last year. That was our date last year. And then without even asking us, or talking to us, they gave the date away.
Traditionally, it is a boxing.
That's why I'm at the Sphere. I couldn't do the Sphere because I'm under contract with MGM.
That doesn't sound very happy to be at the Sphere. As much as he's been hyping up the Sphere, well, that's why I'm at the Sphere. Because I think things are going bad behind the scenes. I think he's pissed about this entire thing. I'm going to break that down in a second, but let's listen to more.
But because they fucked us, they let us do it.
You've said before that it's just a one and done, but with Riyadh season sponsorship, is the Riyadh season one and done for events in the US? Or could you leverage that sponsorship going forward to go back to the Sphere?
No, we wouldn't go to the Sphere, but yeah, we'll definitely do other things with them, during their season.
So again, oh, no, we'd never go back to the Sphere no matter what. We're not going back to the Sphere. And the reason I want to point that out is because a lot of people are like, so we're having Mexican Independence Day card, UFC Noche card, sponsored by Riyadh season. It's just kind of like, oh, this doesn't really make sense. It's because they're burning so much money, they got Saudi Arabia involved. They said, Saudi Arabia, bail us out. We need some extra cash. We're burning cash here. We're spending so much money. Gets to the number in a second. And then they're asked, well, since you're having Riyadh season sponsor you, is there any chance you could go back to the Sphere? And he's like, no, there's no way. And he's been adamant. No way I'm ever going back to the Sphere. Now, he said that from the beginning, but he's gotten more and more hardline as the time has gone on. And I think it's because the profit margin is shrinking by the day because they're lowering ticket prices. The ticket sales aren't going as well as they thought they would be. And also they're competing with Canelo Alvarez. Next clip we're going to take a look at is him even being saltier about not having the original date. Listen to this.
No, I don't think it's a battle. I said props to Al Heyman. He slid right in there before we were even done with the weekend and took the date from us without MGM even telling us. So, I told you before, Bill Hornbuckle's trying to fix this whole thing. That's why he gave me the Sphere this year, and I'm sure we'll get it figured out.
Look, I can read Dana like a book, and he's not happy about this at all. And it could just be Dana's pride, like, oh, they took that date from us, they took our arena that we were going to use. But imagine had they took the date, and it gave him this amazing opportunity to do the Sphere that he's been hyping up, and it was massively successful, and it had a crazy gate, and they made boatloads of money. Dana would be ecstatic about it. He'd be smiling ear to ear. They took our date, but look at us now. Look what we're doing at the Sphere. We're gonna have one of the largest gates ever. And he's asked specifically about it here in a minute. Do you think you're gonna beat their gate? And he gives a lackluster answer on that as well.
So Dana, just to clarify on that, so the way it worked out was you did your show at the T-Mobile, then MGM gave that date away for the next year.
And when I say MGM, it's the guys who run the arena who have been literally disrespecting us since day one of the relationship. So now Bill Hornbuckle, the guy who runs MGM, had to get in the middle of this thing and try to fix it. And that's how I ended up at the Sphere. It's a one and done. We'll be back with MGM, and hopefully, Bill can figure this thing out between us and the fucking guys that run the arena.
Does that sound like a guy that's very happy that he's at the Sphere? And I get it. Again, he could just be prideful. But he's like, yeah, that's why we're at the Sphere. We're losing money because we spent, X amount of money, millions of dollars, which he actually gets to the number in a second. And he's like, yeah, but they're not making the same amount of money. It doesn't matter if the gate's $30 million. If now they spent, hypothetically, I'm just making up numbers here. If they're making $30 million gate, but they're spending $25 million, but typically they would only spend $5 million, that's a massive loss in revenue. That's a massive shrinkage in profit margin. And it seems like that's primarily been Dana White and the UFC's focus over the past couple of years.
And they're offering the gate, though. So they're giving the date away and then offering the gate on top of it. Doesn't that feel like an extra personal, we're definitely...
Extra kick in the balls? Yeah, that's what they do. This is what these guys have done for the last however many years. It's fucking crazy. There's a documentary coming out.
So he's so pissed about it, he's putting out a documentary. Okay? That's when you know things are real. Okay? But it gets even worse. Listen to this. This next clip, he continues to complain about the date, and he's pissed because essentially you have to understand, and again, I don't want to over-explain this. They wanted to go to T-Mobile. T-Mobile was gone, so they said, okay, well, they got out of their contract with MGM, or not out of their contract, but for this one specific event, and they were allowed to go to the Sphere. But now they're burning money at the Sphere, and they're not making it back on ticket sales. So he's pissed about losing that date.
When got it?
Yeah. They got the date. So after that event, I told my guy Pete, get this date locked up next year. Again, it was already gone. It was already gone. Never called us, never asked us, never said, hey, we're giving the date away, never said, fuck you, never said anything.
Do you think
we called and it was already gone?
Do you think they...
My question is, again, you're so hyped about the Sphere is going to be this massive event. Why wouldn't you be happy about it? You had this opportunity to do something awesome, one of a kind, unique. But he's not happy because the profit margin has shrunk significantly.
They really see you as a big competition then for them to work it that way.
Who, MGM?
Canelo's guys.
So he goes off to talk a little bit more about that. But then the last clip I want to show you from this press conference, and the next clip we're going to take a look at, is him actually asked about tickets about a month ago by none other than Kevin Iole, which we're going to take a look at in a second. But this last clip I think is the most telling clip of it all, because he's asked about the gate. How do you think the gate's going to be? And again, he just seems like pissed off while he's answering this. And granted, he could just be pissed off. But I'm telling you, there was more than meets the eye. Maybe I don't know the whole story here, but in the UFC and Dana White's eyes, I think the Sphere is a complete and utter failure. And I think they are pissed that they have burnt through so much money. And at the end of the day, they are blaming MGM. They're putting the blame solely on the guys that run the MGM T-Mobile Arena and didn't allow them to have that date originally.
Than Canelo.
Who knows?
The question was, do you think you're going to have a bigger gate than Canelo?
MGM's guaranteeing the gate.
Do you think
Who knows what the gate will really be?
Do you think you'll get more pay-per-views?
I don't know. Listen, what I'm focused on that weekend is putting on a show that nobody's ever seen before. I'm more concerned about, this show is so complex and there's so many different moving pieces to this thing being seamless and going off the way that I want. I'm more focused on that than any of this other MGM bullshit. So
I literally think this has been a massive headache for the UFC, all to burn through extra money that they didn't need to burn through, all for no real gain for them, at least. I think it's going to be cool, at least to see them do something different, kind of get us out of that mundane event after event. We'll see how it turns out. I've kind of been like, I doubt it's going to be anything crazy. But for them, they're thinking we put in all this extra work just to not regain as much money as possible, which at the end of the day is their goal.
I know you said this months ago that you'd already spent $17 million. Is that figure still accurate, or has it escalated?
We're at 20 now.
And how much is it per test run? Because I heard somebody in the UFC say it was $1 million every time to do a test run. Is that accurate?
This is an expensive show. This is an expensive show.
He's laughing the pain away. This is a very expensive show. They spent $20 million. I don't know how much it cost them to put on an event at T-Mobile. I'm going to try to find out. But it's not costing them $20 million. And then on top of that, they hope to recoup a lot of that money through ticket sales. But now again, you look at the tickets and look at them. This is a far cry from the original $3,000. This is a far cry from that. So I think Dana is absolutely heated. He's so invested in this. I mean, Dana is essentially Michael Chandler, Conor McGregor when it comes to the Sphere. The sunk cost fallacy. He's invested so much, there's no backing out now. Okay, he's just going to, he has to go through with it at this point. We're 2 weeks away. But I think at the end of the day, the taste in his mouth from this UFC 306, UFC Noche, UFC at the Sphere card is something that he's actually really annoyed about, because he spent all this extra money and hoped to recoup it in ticket sales, which he's not going to get. Now, the last clip I want to take a look at, and I'll link all these videos down in the description, is something that popped into my memory while making this video. Kevin Iole actually about a month ago asked Dana White about the ticket prices, and Dana kind of deflected and said, oh, well, the lowest price is $1,500. So I wanted to point this out because even though this did not appear to be true, it seemed like the lowest price was $3,000, and Dana was just kind of, no, it's $1,500. Even so, that's a far cry from what we have now at $757, okay? That's half of this, okay, or damn near half of it. So that's pretty crazy. Listen to this.
You know, I was a little surprised. You've been talking about the Sphere card for a long time. You said at UFC 303, $17 million. to that point has been spent. So I guess number one, can you give us an update on what has been spent at this point? But I was surprised, Dana, $3,000 tickets. That's your minimum in price. That's going to keep a lot of normal fans away, and that's not normally your thing, right?
$3,000 for what?
Isn't the minimum base ticket price $3,000?
No, it's $1,500.
So according to him, it's $1,500. At the time, everyone else that checked, it was $3,000. So I don't know if that's a miscommunication between Dana and someone else. I don't know if they thought they could jack it up last minute or something had changed. I would have loved for Kevin Iole to be able to fact check him in real time. Obviously, that wasn't possible here. But this brings up another concern about ticket prices in general that we're going to talk about to end this video. But then it's like, no, it's $1,500. Again, that's a far cry from $757.
Oh, I saw $3,000. Okay, I'm sorry.
No. The minimum price was $1,500. And yeah,
but still, the same thing applies. You're not going to get a casual fan.
No, believe me, we got plenty of casual fans. We.
By the way, I think in general that question is kind of phrased wrong. I don't even know if it's casual fan. I think it's more of an everyday MMA fan. You're not going to get an everyday MMA fan. Casual fans, rich people who are just in Vegas, they're like, oh, yeah, you know what? I'll go to the UFC. That happens all the time. I think that's the majority of events now. But $1,500, that's crazy just to get in the door. And that's half the price that was actually on the website at the time this was recorded.
Study this shit like fucking scientists. Are you kidding me? I mean, this is our business. This is what we do. And this is on par with any big, like a Canelo fight. It's on par with a Canelo fight. And obviously, this is a one of one, right? One of one event. I'm $20 million into this fucking thing, right? I'm in anywhere between 17 and 20 right now. And the fight isn't until September 14th. But this is on par for any massive event that happens on Cinco de Mayo or Mexican Independence Day when Canelo fights. And you know what the difference is? The Canelo fight that's happening the same night, MGM's guaranteeing that gate.
Right.
So they don't fucking, you know what I mean? MGM's guaranteeing the gate. We're actually, we do everything all in-house, and nobody's guaranteeing us the gate. We're spending the money on this thing.
So I think that was the beginning of like kind of the early fears of nobody's guaranteeing our gate, and we spent all this money. Who knows what's going to happen? And again, on par with one of these big events, I think UFC Noche is an incredible event. But there's no doubt that the expectations that Dana White set, it did not live up to those expectations. And the reason there's only a 10-fight card, guys, is because they needed to save money on payroll. 10-fight card, that's less fighters they have to pay. That's less production cost. That's less hours for the cameramen and the studio workers and this and that. That was a cost-cutting measure to only have 10 fights versus your typical 12 to 13. You know, in the sphere, that could be millions of dollars. But Dana here, clearly he's upset about that guaranteed date, which he had an outburst on Twitter, which is the last thing we're going to look at in this video. But I want to talk about this because this is something I wanted to kind of make a video about, but really didn't have the topic, so we'll cover it in this video. What I hate is nowadays the ticket prices for the UFC are so extreme that your everyday MMA fan can't even go to these events anymore. I went to UFC 244 in 2019, and I think with taxes and fees for good tickets, I think I spent, I want to say it was about $800. It might have been $700, $800. But that was really good seats. That was really amazing seats. For here to get shit seats originally was $3,000. Then according to Dana, $1,500. That is craziness. And if you look at UFC 300 or any of the big events in Las Vegas, people complain, oh, the Saudi Arabia crowd is tame, or, the Brazil crowd is shit, or we hear complaints about different crowds. I think the Paris crowd is the most amazing crowd, by the way, which I'm hyped for that event coming up in a couple weeks. But we hear people complaining about these crowds. I think the Las Vegas crowds are shit, and I'm not saying the other ones aren't shit. What I'm saying is you look at UFC 300, half the arena's empty until the main card. You know why? Because the majority of the people showing up to the cards are just rich, casual people who are chilling in Vegas and they're like, oh, we'll go to a UFC card. Basically, if you're an everyday hardcore MMA fan, you can't even make it to these events. I don't have it right here on screen, but I think back when Jones was scheduled to fight Stipe Miocic last November, Stipe was only going to sit out for 3 years instead of 4 years. I think the lowest ticket price for MSG was like $900. That's crazy for your everyday fans. So they're pricing out everyday fans to basically cater to this ultra elite, rich, kind of casual fans. And I think overall, it's just kind of a horrible look on the UFC, but also, like when I'm looking at UFC 300 and I'm seeing the crowd completely empty till the main card, even some, I think a couple fights into the main card, it was still partially empty. I'm like, damn, this sucks. I think Noche, hopefully it's not the same just because those tickets were so outrageous. Imagine you spent $3K originally, now you're seeing $757. You got to be sick to your stomach. I'd try for a refund or something along those lines. But I just think this highlights a bigger issue of the UFC so obsessed with profit that now they've basically made it where the fans can't even show up anymore. The real true heart. Imagine, and I know this is a dream world and I know everything isn't perfect, but imagine a world where the arena is filled with hardcore fans. I would love to hear the roar of that crowd. I would love to see that. But unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. It really just isn't the case unless you go to some of these smaller arenas where they barely go and then they have cheap tickets. So everyone kind of, who might be an MMA fan shows up to that arena, for some of those lesser cards. We don't really get that with big pay-per-views anymore. Think about UFC 300, more than half that crowd. I would say probably 90% of the crowd were just ultra casuals who were just rich and in Vegas and said, oh, we'll go there. Probably left before the main event. Showed up one fight into the main card. So this just highlights a bigger issue. Now, the last thing I want to take a look at is a report from this guy, Alan Dawson. This was earlier today. A source involved with PBC's Canelo Berlanga event reached out to say that this is nonsense. MGM Resorts isn't guaranteeing the Canelo date and hasn't for boxing events for a while. Where does Dana White get this stuff, right? And it's funny because, again, Dana's been complaining, oh, they're guaranteeing the date, the gate, they took our date, and Dana White even responded to this. Bullshit, who's the source? They're absolutely guaranteeing the gate, a source at PBC. Now, Dana may be right. I don't think Dana would just completely make this up, so I'm going to tend to believe Dana. I don't know. He does lie a lot. Maybe he is lying. I just feel like he wouldn't tell that blatant of a lie. But again, this just highlights the issue that he's really pissed off because I believe he thinks they wronged him so badly now that he wasted money at the Sphere. Because imagine at the end of the day, and what I'm trying to get across here, and that's the last thing we're going to look at on screen, but if Dana White had made this Sphere event, UFC Noche, and it was this banging success and they were going to make so much money and so much profit, Dana would be happy. They'd be like, oh, you look how it worked out. Everything happens for a reason. He'd be saying some scripture like Michael Chandler. That everything happens for a reason. But instead, he seems so pissed and disgruntled because of the way UFC Noche has gone down. He seems to get increasingly more annoyed as the date gets closer. Now, maybe I'm completely off on this, but to have to lower your ticket prices from $3,000 to $757 is absolutely insane. And again, to have that many tickets still available 2 weeks out from the event, my guess is eventually it'll sell out. They'll keep lowering prices and lowering prices and lowering prices until they're sold out. But it seems like people are like, you know what? This is too much. This costs too much. You're pricing us out. They're already getting priced out at some of the other arenas. But then it's like, yeah, you have to come. You have to come to the show. If you're Mexican, you have to be here. Well, you're selling tickets for $3,000. You're telling me I have to be there? That's craziness. That's crazy talk. Imagine you want to go with 4 people. That's $12,000 to go to the event, and that's not even including fees. I guess now you can get it on a decent bargain, but still, even $757 is crazy. It's probably over $1,000 with the fees. And I think ultimately, the lowering of the prices has been an absolute catastrophe for Dana White and the UFC. They're pissed about it. They're losing their ass on this event. And I think that's why Dana has become so abrasive about UFC Noche. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much for watching.